Honored to be able to speak on behalf of Leader Stewart Cousins on this resolution, this incredibly important resolution, one resolution that unifies instead of dividing. It's not about policy, it's about people, it's about purpose, it's about passion. And Leader Stewart Cousins is the embodiment, the physical embodiment of Dr. King's dream. The first African-American woman to ever lead a conference in the history of the state of New York. That is remarkable. It's incredible. I think about Dr. King and what he did and what he accomplished. And I think about this past Monday when many of us, if not all of us, back in our districts, we went to churches and rallies and meetings, and we spoke to different people, Mr. President. And one of the things I want to make us aware of is that it's not a day off, it's a day on, as we've heard. It's not just a day of service that we've heard, but it's a day of reflection. It's a day of incredible reflection for me as I get closer to the age of 39, that magic number 39. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. died at the age of 39, Mr. President, and I am 37. And every year I reflect a little bit more about what I've not done that Dr. King was able to get accomplished in his 39 years. I think about the 39 that I have. The only thing I have in common with Dr. King is my license plate number. Mr. President is 39, and he was 39 when he passed away. I have a lot more to do. We all have a lot more to do. But we have to do it in an attitude and with an attitude of service. And Dr. King's dream can't be realized on one day. You can't say all is great on Monday, and on Tuesday we're back to the hate. That's not what Dr. King stood for. And if you observe his day, the only holiday named after a single man, if you observe his day, then you should observe what his dream is 365, and not just on January 15th and the Monday that follows it. You see, I think about Dr. King's quote, "Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others?" That's the service component, Mr. President, and we're lucky to serve in this body. Despite your political ideology, what you may believe, where you come from, I want us to understand something about the ability to serve that we have. We are 63 people out of a state that is approximately 20 million people strong. That is 0.0000315. That's the only time I'll ever be a part of the 1%, Mr. President. And it's a part of the 1% that I cherish. Dr. King also said everybody can be great because anybody can serve. And we must serve. Whatever it is that we believe in, we must serve the communities that we come from, capably, well, and with passion and purpose. I think about the connection that Dr. King had to my own grandfather, James Thomas Bailey, the original J.T. Bailey, my hero. They were both born in 1929, and they both had roots to Selma. We know about the March on Selma, and God bless Colonel Larkin. And I miss Colonel Larkin and his commentary about the days where he was around in the civil rights movement. You see, it's not about party, it's about purpose, Mr. President. And I think about 1929 in Selma, North Carolina, the forgotten Selma, we like to call it, in my family. That's where my grandfather was born. And though if you ask my family members, my grandpa was more Malcolm than he was Martin, he still believed in the mission. He still believed that if we achieve together, we could achieve greatness. And that's what we're here for our children, for our families, for our communities, to achieve greatness. But what about the greatness that seems to escape so many people? Mr. President, you know I'm a fan of music, it's specifically hip-hop music, and I think about the rapper and actor Christopher Bridges, who many know as Ludacris, and he has a song called Do Your Time, and he said, "I'd give my eyes to Stevie Wonder just to see what he's seen, but then I'd take him right back to see Martin Luther's dream. I dreamed that I can tell Martin Luther we made it, but half my black brothers are still incarcerated, locked up in a cell block, lost from the shell shock." It reminds me of the letter from Birmingham jail that Martin Luther King famously read. "My friends, I say to you that we have not made a single gain in civil rights without determined legal and nonviolent pressure. Lamentably, it is a historical fact that privileged groups seldom give up their privileges voluntarily. Individuals may see the moral light and voluntarily give up their unjust posture, but as Reynold Niebuhr has reminded us, groups tend to be more immoral than individuals. We know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor and must be demanded by the oppressed. Frankly, I have yet to engage in a direct action campaign that was well-timed in the view of those who have not suffered unduly from the disease of segregation. For years now, I have heard the word wait. It rings in the ear of every Negro with piercing familiarity. This wait has almost always meant never. We must come to see, with one of our distinguished jurists, that justice too long delayed is justice denied. We have waited for more than 340 years of our constitutional and God-given rights. The nations of Asia and Africa are moving with jet-like speed toward gaining political independence. But we still creep at horse and buggy pace toward gaining a cup of coffee at a lunch counter. Perhaps it is easy for those who have never felt the stinging darts of segregation to say, wait. And Mr. President, that's why we couldn't wait to do what we had to do to make sure we reform things. That's why people march, Mr. President, because they're tired of waiting. People are tired of waiting. And Martin Luther King Jr., and it's hard for me to be able to say this is what he would have wanted us to do, but that's what he said. He was worried about us waiting for too long. And I think about what the dream is today. How close are we to realizing that dream? And we know the dream through Leader Stewart Cousins. We know the dream through Speaker Hastie. But we can't be silent. Because as Dr. King famously said, our lives end the day we begin to become silent about those things that matter. So what matters? Well, what matters is your impact. Your impact is greater than you can ever imagine. You harness your energy, you harness your passion and your direction, and you make sure your passion has direction. Because I've said before, passion without purpose is pointless. Now imagine that while Dr. King worked really hard, and as was read in the resolution, he didn't want the accolades. I'm sure he didn't intend on being a legendary figure, that he'd be the first African American to have this holiday named after him. I imagine that he wasn't doing any of the work that he did in anticipation of having this day. As he said, the time is always right to do what's right. And that's why he did what he did. He did what he had to do. So many of us can do what we want to do. Freedom matters. Opportunity matters. Liberty matters. And family matters, and I don't mean Steve Urkel, Mr. President. Dr. King famously said, I submit to you, if a man has not discovered something he will die for, then he isn't fit to live. And that's my family. What they do, what they teach me, what they do for me on a daily basis. You see, education is the great equalizer, Mr. President. And I think about my daughter in school and what she's learning. And I think about when she came home from school, she said, oh, well, I learned about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Dad. I remember I learned about him last year in pre-K, but this is kindergarten. We're learning more. I'm like, all right, Giada, well, how much more did you learn? Well, Dad, I learned that, do you know that he was arrested? I'm like, no, Giada, tell me more about how he was arrested. He was arrested standing up for what he believed in. I was like, wow. And then she said, you know what? You know what else, Dad? You know what I think? I'm like, sure, Giada, what do you think? You know, the people that arrested him, they should have been arrested because they were in the way of him doing the right thing. Ladies and gentlemen, if a 5-year-old can figure that out, I think we can all figure it out too. What's right is right. Fight for what's right. And I want you to understand that what unites us will always be stronger than what could ever divide us. Dr. King reminds us that darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Whether you're from Broome County or the Bronx, you love your people. Whether you like bacalao or saltfish, Mr. President, it's the same thing if we're really talking about it. Whether you like callaloo or collard greens, both vegetables, just a little different seasoning. We all have the roots in the same things that we want. We want our people to be better. That's what Dr. King wanted. That's what I want for my kids. For Karina, too. I didn't mention Karina. She'll get mad if I didn't mention her. But in all seriousness, Mr. President, it's an honor to be able to speak in this every year because this is the anniversary when I first spoke on the floor. So it's always a moment of deep reflection for me and deep gratitude for our leader and for being a member of this body. I do because King dreamed. Thank you, Mr. President.